Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another live edition of the Suffolk Non-League Show. It's that time of the week, ladies and gents. It's Monday night. It's 8:30. We are live across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm obviously, as always, joined by my colleague and good friend, Adam. How are you doing this week, sir?
You well? Very good. Very good. Not too bad at all. All tucked in from a Monday night fun, aren't I?
Good, man. New PC as well.
New rig, so everything's had to be upgraded because the last one literally melted. This is an expensive hobby, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, mate, 100%. And I can see you've been fiddling around with a couple of the settings there for your camera. A nice purple border. What's the purple for? Any particular reason?
To get rid of the fact that I can't quite set the distance correctly on my camera.
Right.
So there's a little bit of green screen missing off the edge of the screen. I thought purple's quite a nice color.
Right.
So I filled that in, and now nobody would ever know unless you bring it up. You absolute idiot. All good.
I'm preempting people's comments of why has Adam got a purple border? Because I already spot these things.
You can download the app. You can have it too. It looks a bit like if anyone watches Dr. Benji on YouTube, he's got it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the software's quite nice. It's okay. I've got very few things downloaded on my computer at the moment other than Football Manager and FIFA. So to sort this out was just, I didn't realise how many things I had to get sorted. And then I realised just as I logged on, I don't have any speakers either. So here I am with headphones looking like an absolute wally.
Dear me, it's all going so well until you said the FIFA remark. But anyway, it's been. I've had a very, very busy week. It was my first week back into the office, which was.
You enjoyed that, didn't you?
No, bloody hated it. I bloody hated it. I loved my life at home. I loved just being able to go in the next room and just see the missus and just see the little man. It was just perfect. It was such a good setup. So yeah, hopefully nobody from work watches these things because on the conference call, I was like, yeah, I'll be delighted to come back in. Absolutely no problem. I'll see you Tuesday. Don't worry.
Well, that was your first mistake. Honesty is the best policy.
Well, I'd been saying for weeks I wanted to stay at home, but no one listened. So I thought, what's the point? I might as well just BS them. So yeah, I said, hopefully no one from work watches these things. But I hope you're all doing amazingly well, everyone. We've got a busy show tonight, actually, to be honest. We've got a few news items that we need to go through this week, which should be interesting. Can't wait to get Adam's thoughts on a couple of those topics. And then, of course, we've got our guest, Peter Hutchins from the THURLOW NUNN, coming on to talk all things non-league football. We're really excited to have Peter on the show. But before we get too much into today's episode, just want to have a very quick word, from our sponsors.
A massive thank you to all of our sponsors on the Suffolk Non-League Show, Starling and Lock, Matchday Marketing, GBS, Your Shirts and Clabber Creative. GBS are a family-run construction company in Ipswich operating nationwide with over 30 years experience, offering fire protection, diamond drilling, commercial building, health and safety and asbestos removal. Starling and Lock, self-employed electrician in the Stowmarket and Suffolk area since 1989, offering domestic work and certificates for people buying and selling houses. An NIC/EIC member. Matchday Marketing, sports marketing and branding company, helping enhance the image and profile of grassroots and non-league clubs at a very low cost, utilising over 20 plus years in the game. Your Shirts, eye-catching, professional-looking garments for your business, team, club or organisation with a range of printing methods to cover all individual needs. Clabber Creative is a creative agency based in Framlingham, Suffolk, offering fully managed football club websites. They are about giving your club a professional image and the ongoing support to maintain it. Links for all of these companies will be in the description below. Go and check them out and tell them that DeeJam has sent you.
And as always, we do say a massive thank you to our sponsors and a massive thank you to all of our Ko-fi members, everyone who has continued to help the show grow, and also to a massive, massive thank you to all of our Patreon members. Regular donations towards the channel, helping towards the show continuing to grow at the rapid rate that it has done. I can't believe we're on episode 31 already of this. Absolutely incredible. But we're now up to 12 Patreon members, which is just fantastic. If you want to become a Patreon member, you know what to do. Click the link in the description. Click on there. Have a little bit of a look. You can put from as little as £1 a month towards the show, and you can cancel this at any time. Patreon.com/DeeJam. And as a friendly reminder as well, the shop for all of our Suffolk non-league show goodies, including the hoodie that I'm currently wearing this evening, is available. Again, click the link in the description of the YouTube video. I'll be posting this out at different points throughout social media as well throughout the week. You got hats, you got your mugs, you got your hoodies, you got your t-shirts available. What more could you want? If you want to get yourself an item from there, you know where to go. Right, let's get a few hello messages up on the screen because there's plenty of you pouring in tonight. Shem is in the building. Hope you're well. Yes, we're doing very well, my friend. Hope you're good. James Bloomfield is here. Your FM buddy, isn't he? Nowadays,
he's been doing drafts until 2 a.m. in the morning most nights. It's been great fun. We actually did the Eastern Counties League this week, and loads of our players are in there. It's amazing without uploading a separate database.
Really?
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's good fun.
There you go. Stuart Miller is here. Eve says even Shem on there. Slim's in the building. Hello. Hope you're doing all right. Irv is in the building as well, as is Alex, as is Michael, who's a Patreon member. Massive thank you, Michael. Hi, lads. The highlight of the week. We appreciate that, Ben. Hope you're doing all right. Happy Monday. Oh, hope you and Adam are well. Yes, good. Yeah, really good. I said this is the driving force of my week to get to a Monday. And I know we've made it through another successful week. I'm not sure what his message says on there as well. Adam has gone Harchester United. I knew people were going to be commenting. That's why I preempted the purple. I knew people were going to be commenting about it.
I can mix it up to a different colour, but I just quite like purple.
Yeah, well, there you go then. There you go.
I've got purple like all of my PC lights and all sorts.
Sean is here as well. Matchday
Sean.
Marketing, working in your no, Alex, no. You've got to at least have some sort of standards when you're working from home. Otherwise, you get too comfortable. Ian is here as well, as is Stuart Spreadbridge. Before we kind of dive too much into it, if you're watching from a YouTube perspective, make sure you hit the thumbs up button on this video. Give the video a like right now before we get too much into tonight's show. It really does help the show continue to grow, and it helps with the YouTube algorithm and boosts it out and promotes it to other people in the area and other people who would be interested in non-league football. So remember, give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. We're very close to 1,600 or 1,700? 1,600 subscribers on there, which is remarkable considering there's been no football whatsoever. But we really, really appreciate it ever so much. So as I said, YouTube, subscribe, and hit the thumbs up. Adam, should we get into the first talking point from this week? It's been quite a busy week, despite the fact that, again, as we always reiterate, there's been no football to really talk about, to actually report on, rather. There's still been updates, and it's still been a rather busy week. First of all, we have the update from the FA to say that they are meeting up this Thursday to ratify the recommendation to make Step 2 null and void. This was after the recent rejection for a Step 2 proposal to have a mini competition to gain promotion to the National League. And as well, they're going to be putting through their recommendation to curtail the current season for steps 3 to 6. I thought they'd already done it. I thought the decision was already made, but apparently...
No, I knew it hadn't been ratified, but I'll be honest, I can never see things not being ratified. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't understand the process in a way. Do they all just sit around a table and just say, yeah, that was a good idea, it's going to get everything knocked on the head, see you later? But it's another one of these Teams meetings for the sake of it that we're all having to do at the moment. I think I think there's no doubt in my mind that those things are going to be ratified. Hopefully, out of all of this, the one thing I want to see is definition about what curtailing means. And if it just means the fact that people get to keep their records in terms of goals, games, all the rest of it, fine, but we just need some kind of knowledge as to what's going to happen there.
Yeah, definitely. And the second bit of news from, not from a local, but a wider perspective, is, again, we don't. There seems to be this reluctance to say that fans are going to be allowed to watch games of football at the moment. I tweeted out during the week after Ollie Bayliss broke the news that, unfortunately, the current understanding from the DMCS is that spectators for non-elite football will be under the same categorization as outlined for all spectators in the government's roadmaps behind closed doors until no earlier than May the 17th. So regardless of what football potentially is going to be starting up in April, at the moment, until at least the middle of May, we won't be allowed to go and watch football matches.
Makes the sport very difficult, doesn't it? At lower levels, to be honest.
Because the whole point of people being able to put these friendly matches on is not only to kind of get the team spirit, get going, and to get something going about a feel-good factor around the club. It's to allow the fans to come back in, to allow the community to come back in, and to try and raise a little bit of money for the club and get things kind of going again before we kickstart next season. And to kind of hear that, it was just it was a bit of a kick in the teeth, really, weren't it? It just didn't.
Yeah. None of these are all about the communities, isn't it? And like, until that can happen, the community aspect of it can't be pulled together anyway. And it's gonna. I had a bit of a conversation on Twitter about it this week, but it just makes any kind of restart earlier than that date seem, to me, a bit pointless.
Yeah.
The FA VARs will need to be played before that date, and that will need to go on. There is prize money attached to that, so for some clubs that might be fruitful. There's still last season's FA VARs to sort out, so we're going to have like one of these double finals days where one team gets to hold the trophy for 10 minutes before handing it over, I guess. So it is madness, but these are the times we live in. Like, what can we do? Like, do you know what I mean? Well, it's just one of those things you have to take. Like,
it's mental because, I mean, the list, I don't know if you saw the list of things that you could do, but you can't go and watch a football match at the moment. They're going to allow you to basically go, you're going to allow to like meet up with people. You're going to be allowed to go shopping. You're going to be allowed to go to restaurants and all of this kind of stuff like that. Your rest of your lives are going to be allowed to go up, but you can't stand around the side of a football pitch, socially distanced away from people to watch a game of football. Like, I know it's not the FA that's making these decisions because this is a wider government thing, but surely some bloody common sense needs to come into play here because it's a no-brainer. It's unbelievably stupid thinking from certain people in power. And I don't want to. I always say this. I never want to get political on this, but just seriously, somebody just needs to have a little bit of a think. Just some of it's
going to come down to how easy I think the social distancing is going to be to manage. I think, like, and how realistic it is. And like, don't get me wrong, like I want to see football, but what I want more is to not have to have another lockdown because I am at the end of my tether right now. With it all. So if this is the last one of these we ever have to have, and going with that means we have to wait 4 more weeks before we can play football, absolutely great. Do I think it's going to be the last one we ever have to have? No, I don't. But like for now, like we need to get on some sort of even keel because this has been an absolute killer. I don't know. Like, I'm a bit skeptical because I get there's more to it than this, but I don't think that kicking a football from one person to another on a field or whatever cause transmission on the pitch very, very well. There are other things that you can do on a football pitch that might, but they can be eradicated a bit. But I don't know how difficult it is to have some responsibility for social distancing. People almost do it automatically now.
I think the thing that's kind of getting to me is that clubs put in place these procedures last time to make sure the football could go ahead during even worse times than what we're currently experiencing right now. And it's almost like they're not being trusted to allow some sort of football to kind of, like, I know it's such a minute thing to be worrying about in the current time that we're in, but it's almost like you're being told that you have to continue working because that's what we need to do in order to get the economy going again. But you're not allowed to enjoy any sort of social part of your life. There's nothing to look forward to on the weekend or just to be able to go and do something. Like, you're in the open air. There is absolutely no risk because the clubs are making sure that you are not, mingling. You still have to check yourselves in. You still have to sanitize yourself. You still have to be socially distanced. Like, where is the rational thinking of you can't allow a football match to go ahead, but it's absolutely fine if 10 of you want to meet up and go and sit in a restaurant.
I think
absolutely fine.
The bigger issues, though, beyond this, is the fact that beyond the socialising, the clubs need the people in to start making some money. Like, that's where it's going to get frustrating. And obviously, Stephen's already in here, and he'll know just as much as anyone else in here that's like deeply involved with running a club. If you can't get anyone in your doors whatsoever, and you're not given the chance to put that protocol there, that's when the clubs are going to start to fall away. And as Ollie Bayliss said a couple of weeks ago, I'm absolutely shocked more clubs haven't said we can't carry this on. I really am.
Yeah, how more clubs haven't gone by this point, I really don't know. Kurt's put on here, it's only to stop people meeting at football games when restrictions don't even allow public meetups outside of one household. Just says it is ridiculous. Lee says it seems pointless being a holder for that period of time.
That's for the cup, yeah.
Yeah, Shem's put on here, youth leagues start games on the 3rd of April, nothing on parents not attending. We get 30 plus at our games most Saturdays. What's the difference? It's a very valid point. Oh, wait, you can meet as a group of 6. It's even more ridiculous, says Kurt on here. Old Boris has the nation to think of. I don't think he has the time to narrow down to grassroots and say, let's not forget football. Got to go off a nation lifting or restrict. No, I get that.
That's a good.
I get that. I 100% get that, Dean. But someone will have had these conversations with people in power at some point about football matches and about people attending games and stuff like that. Someone will have had this conversation with someone, and somebody has put those restrictions in place. This is my point. This is what I don't get. Is that the rules are being put into place so that the economy gets going again, but yet all of this side of things has not been thought out properly. It's just been, no, let's just scrap that and we'll deal with that as and when. It's not been thought out properly. And the people who are in a position of power to be able to make those decisions, like the certain MPs or ministers for sport and all this kind of stuff like that, they're the people that have those questions directed at them. They're the people that are actually in the know about these things. So why aren't broader decisions and broader thoughts being made? I don't know.
I think we need to expand our thinking on it, though. To be honest, like socially, we've all suffered enough as it is. Mm-hmm. Like in terms of just broad stroke things that we haven't been able to do. Like, I don't really need to get mega specific about it. Everyone knows the story by now. It is the businesses in terms of the clubs that are suffering at this point, when they can see that other people can open up and non-essential shops and stuff can open up. And I'm sure more than 300 people get in Asda at a time and like all start wandering around the aisles together. Like they can see that there are other things that are done in a more risky environment than that they could make their stadiums into. But you can't do anything about it until someone gives the nod. Like, that's the bottom line.
Yeah. But this is the thing. It's just my I don't know. I'm just trying to think of where's the risk, and when there is no risk, that's why I don't. Then that's when I just think, well, why are we being stopped from doing it? That's what really gets to me at the moment. Is that if there was a risk, I could 100% understand why people are saying no, but when there's not a risk and things have been put in place to make sure that it can't happen, that it doesn't happen.
There's just desperation now, though, isn't there, as well, to just get back with your mates. Just get back to doing the thing that you love. Like, we're all just desperate for it. Yeah.
Alex has put, could this be a decision based on those clubs who were blasted online for not following the rules last time around? Could probably be. Could well be. Unfortunately, you do get lumped into the group that is the most vocal and is the most out there and gets the most traction.
It was well publicised as well, Alex, that sport was literally on its last warning from the things that had been shared. So yeah, like, is there a bigger picture there? Possibly.
Yeah. Stephen has put, we were allowed 300 fans in October when cases were higher and increasing, and now we have a vaccine. Yeah, again, it's a very valid point. We also have to be aware that all sports want to come back. It's not just football. No, I completely agree, Lee. I completely agree. Again, rugby's in the exact same situation. Again, it's out in the open air. Again, I don't really see the risk, but there we go. Maverick says, but they have adapted policy and said it's going to be opened up at a slower pace. It's been all over the news today.
I haven't actually seen this. I'm not doubting it for 1 minute. But I haven't actually caught up with the news today at all.
That's it. Dean's, but I get it. I really do. But this time there needs to be more cautious so another lockdown does not happen. Now, again, it's a very valid point. But again, it's just the way that things are being done. That's how that's what I don't agree with. But it is what it is. We can't, like you said, there's not really much we can do about it. These are the rules, and this is the way things are going to have to be. But again, it then comes down to which clubs are then going to want to, if it is 100% ratified that is the decision and that you can't have fans, what clubs are realistically going to be wanting to operate in April is the big question. Because if there's nobody there to watch the games, how many of them are going to bother?
There was already a considerable list on the SIL clubs about wanting friendlies. So there's still a considerable number of clubs that weren't even interested in doing that for whatever reason. And, it forms about a 50-50 split. So not everyone wants to come back and play.
That's it.
For whatever reason.
And speaking of the SIL statement, we do have an update from the SIL. We do, based on the questionnaire that was sent out, 71 teams have shown an interest to play friendly matches. 27 teams said they do not wish to be involved, and 8 teams have not replied. And within those 71, around half wanted to play midweek, which is very interesting. So yeah, I like that. Again, I think there needs to, whether or not they're thinking about midweek games so that they can try and get some sort of income from that, I'm not entirely sure. But again, we'll wait to hear from that. Following the meeting last Thursday, it was agreed to bring our start date forward by 1 week to Saturday, the 10th of April. So this date will now be the date of the first round of friendlies. All rules that league will apply to these games will be announced alongside the first round of fixtures once the decision on null and voiding the season has been made and permission has been given by Suffolk FA and the English FA. One rule which can be given in advance is to make clubs aware that only players on your SIL list will only be eligible to partake in these games. No guest players are allowed, and you can sign new players up until March 31st by a new registration or by transfer. What do you make of that, Adam?
Clubs have got 2 weeks to sign people that are bored. I'm surprised 8 teams didn't bother replying. Can I say that? Did people expect that? Like 8, after all this time, 8 people just get a survey and think, oh, bollocks, I don't want to fill that in. I can't actually get over that in my thought process, and there might be teams that follow us and that was their thought process. So if it was yours, tell us why. So I can actually understand myself. And then the other side of it is that's quite a meaty number of clubs to actually start popping balls about, which will be good. The fact they want to play midweek is good. I'd love to see some furlough NUNN teams letting their pitches out if they were prepared to, but then it involves facilities management. And if they did that, then you'd think they'd just play their own teams on it. But I'd like to see that being used as a source of a bit of income where possible. I don't know, a bit of fun can be had with it where the people are willing to play. So yeah, it seems I totally understand why there's that proportion of clubs that don't want to play too. The only thing I don't really get is the rules the league will apply to the friendlies. Do friendlies really have rules? I thought you just turn up and you kind of decide how long you want to kick a ball about for, and you get a referee to help you out.
Yeah.
I don't want to overcomplicate it, but what rules can you put in place? Like first to 5 wins, then you all go home just to get the thing knocked on the head. It's a bit odd. But I'm sure it's something much more straightforward than I'm thinking about in my head.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's move on. Let's get our guest on to tonight's show. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to welcome the THURLOW NUNN chairman, Peter Hutchins, onto the show. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the Suffolk Non-League show. First of all, before we kind of get into everything, how are you? How has the past year been for you? I know it's a bit of a routine question that kind of everyone gets asked these days, but how have you found things?
It's been tedious and disappointing. I think it's the best I can come up with on that one. Could I just say evening to both you and everybody that's listening? And can I just go back and pick up on a couple of points that you covered earlier on? I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You asked about why the word curtail has been used, and as far as football at steps 3 to 6 is concerned, it's because exactly as you said, Adam, they want to keep the fixtures and the performances and the goals in the records. And part of that is to do with the potential restructure of the leagues from steps 1 through to 6, because they're going to need some basis on which they can determine who should go up and who shouldn't go up. Right. So curtail was a definite decision to use that word rather than null and void it. And the second point is, if this is your 31st show, why have you waited so long before you asked me?
It's a fair question. It is a fair question.
Yeah.
One that I don't really have an answer for. I think when we look back on it, like I said, we actually had a conversation. And we said, do you know what would be a really good idea if we actually started getting people from the leagues on and actually started linking up and making that communication proper? So, okay, we'll work on getting that done. And a couple of weeks later, here we are. But yeah, 31 shows in, and I will hold my hands up. We are too late to that party.
I think we've been so keen to get players, managers, referees, that kind of stuff like that, people like that on the show that, yeah, I think we have kind of let this, we've kind of dropped the ball on this one, but I'm glad you are the first league official to come on, and hopefully that will be the starting point for others to come on and kind of explain things from a league perspective, because it's often the side of the game that really gets forgotten about, the people who are there making the decisions and the people who make sure that everything is run properly and is organized properly. And everyone tends to forget about you guys. It is very much what goes on the football pitch that is the main area of focus. So it's I'm glad.
The whole reason for the league is to provide a framework for clubs and players to enjoy their football. The Eastern Counties League, we're of the opinion that it's our job to bring people and clubs on from step 7 and see clubs progress through to step 4 and 3. And that's what the league is for. And whilst we love having certain clubs in the competition, we have to recognise that we are their stepping stone in many cases. So that's our role. Good.
Yeah, definitely. I want to just before we kind of get too much into, because we've had quite a few questions sent in from people, and we've got quite a few topics that people would like us to cover. I want to talk about you a little bit first of all, Peter. For those who don't know a huge amount about your time in non-league and time in football and how you kind of got to this point, just kind of give us a bit of a backdrop to your time in football, how you've kind of got to the position that you're in at the moment.
Oh dear, how long have you got?
We normally go for 2 hours, to try and keep it within 15 minutes if you can.
Did you say 50?
Crack the whip, James. Come on.
Okay, well, I started playing competitive football, I suppose, as a 13-year-old back in the 60s. And I was fortunate to play my first Eastern Counties League match for Malden Town in 1969 as a 15-year-old.
Has he paused?
Yeah,
pictures have disappeared.
Okay. There we are. We're back.
We're back.
We're back. And basically, I played football all the way through till I was 37, by which time I was down at Hadley United. I became reserve team manager at Hadley United. I became temporarily first team manager at Hadley United. I wasn't very good at it, and my blood pressure was around it. And I became football secretary at Hadley United, where I stayed for very many years, and I always regard it as my club. and I've still got a lot of good friends down there.
Right.
I left Hadley United following a disagreement, all water under the bridge now, and I was recruited by the Eastern Counties League to become ground standards officer, which I did for 3 years. And unfortunately, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time when they were doing a reshuffle, and got stitched up to the chairman's job. And that was 9 years ago. So the past 9 years have been great. I'm due for re-election this summer, so if people want to get shot with me, now's your opportunity. But because I've played football Eastern Counties League, I've managed the Eastern Counties League, I've been a club secretary at Eastern Counties League. I think the clubs recognise that I've got an understanding of what it is they do, what they go through, and I have a great deal of sympathy for their situations. So my role now, okay, I sit at the head of the committee, but I don't run the league. The committee runs the league.
Right.
It's my job to make sure all the voices are heard and that we follow the rules and have a sensible way forward. And that's where I am now. So I was lucky enough to play football for a long time. I played Eastern Counties League at football at 15. I played Eastern Counties League at 37. The bit in between was pretty rubbish, to be honest, but that's life, you know. And here I am enjoying life as chairman.
My first kind of question based on that history is obviously you went down what people would say is the traditional route of once you finished playing, you went into the coaching, the management side of things. What made you go to the administrative side of it? Because that's not a change we kind of hear about very often, is it?
Absolutely.
It takes a special kind of person to look after the books, the finances, and make sure that everything is running correctly with a club. And they are the unsung heroes of non-league football, the ones that keep everything going behind the scenes. So what made you make that switch from the coaching and being involved in the day-to-day stuff to all of the stuff that goes in the background?
I've always been an administrator. In my working life, I was an administrator.
Right.
Football gave me a lot, and I wanted to put something back, and I still have. It's just an extension of what I did in my working life, I guess, really, but with my love rather than my pay packet.
Right.
When you reflect on your time of like playing and working your way to the point where you are now, how much do you think that journey that you've been on through your sort of career helps you in your day-to-day role now? Because it wouldn't be unusual for someone to be elected somewhere as a chairman and maybe not have the experience of lower down within a business organisation or structure. How much do you value that with what you do every day?
No, immensely. It is the bedrock on which I can do this role, if you like. Without that understanding, it wouldn't be right for me to sit here and even talk to you guys tonight, because I wouldn't have a clue what I was talking about. At least now, I think I've got some semblance of an idea. You know, it's been 9 years in the making, but I think I'm getting the hang of it.
How often do you have to come around for re-election? I didn't actually know that was a process that happened.
No, neither did I.
Yeah, no, I'm an elected official of the league. It's every 3 years.
Right. So you've done all right so far for a few years, getting re-elected in.
I've not been found out yet. Let's put it that
way. So, I mean, I know you made a kind of joke about falling into the role and being stitched up a little bit, but what kind of made you want to, what was the process like going from the admin side of it to then the chairman? Because again, that's a big, from the outside, it probably looks like quite a big step up.
Okay, when I was a young lad, early teens, my home football club was Malden Town. My dad was involved with Malden Town, and Malden Town were playing in the Eastern Counties League. And I became almost in awe of the Eastern Counties League, this competition that sent clubs like Malden all the way up to Boston in Lincolnshire on dodgy roads on a Saturday morning. It was almost an overnight trip. And it's something that stayed with me. And I always had a huge regard for the Eastern Counties League, and I was very flattered when I was approached to go on the committee. apparently I showed a little bit more than I should have done while sitting in committee meetings, or somebody recognised something in me. And when the league was reorganised, because it had previously always been run by a president and club
Right.
and league officials, they wanted to make the president's role more. I can't even think of the right word, but less involved with the day-to-day running of the league, if you like.
Okay.
They wanted somebody to come run the league on a more regular basis by appointing a chairman. So not only have I been chairman for the first 9 years, or last 9 years, I'm also the first ever chairman.
Wowzers. Okay.
So I'm honoured. You know,
Yeah,
it means a lot to me, and I'll continue to do my best for as long as the club want me to stay there.
Okay.
So if people wanted to get involved with the league and approach, maybe build themselves up to the fact where they could join the board, how is that something that somebody could do? That's a question that we had in, but I think that links in quite nicely to your journey that you've had there. And if we talk about that now a bit now, that might actually sort of fit in with conversation.
Okay, well, I was anticipating a question on what do I see as the biggest problems with local football and football going forward, and this links in nicely with that.
Yeah, I was going to say we're getting to that one as well.
Yeah, all right. I've done a little bit of thinking about this. One of the biggest problems is the lack of people coming through to take up administrative roles.
Yeah.
Especially at the higher levels of clubs, steps 5 and 6 football. I stayed at Hadley and picked up the admin role there because I love the club. But people these days tend not to stay at the same club for terribly long. I don't know whether it's chasing the dollar or they want to go and play with their mates somewhere else. But for whatever reason, people tend not to stay with the same club so much. And as a result, the number of administrators within clubs is falling. And when I have an AGM and we get people turning up at the AGMs, you see the same old faces year after year after year, 1 year older. And very often you don't see new faces. And that's, to my mind, one of the biggest problems with football at the moment. We just haven't got the faces coming through. If people want to get involved with the league, the best way to do it is get yourself known at a club.
Yeah.
You know, just go and work at a club, and we pick up people at clubs that are doing a really great job. And we have club reps come on board, and they're voted on at AGMs. But what happens in practice is we will see somebody at a club and think, actually, you've got a brain, you could do a really good job, we need your input. And we'll then approach them and say, look, we're going to need a club rep, which is something you'd be interested in. So we try and build our own working group, if you like, from people we know have an understanding of local football who can put that view forward.
With what you said, with something struck me there with what you said as well. Like, you see the same faces come in the door every year, but you just see them 1 year older. And I think also it's fair to say that more people at the club, you're having fewer people have to do more jobs as football becomes a more complex business with social media roles and everything else. But those jobs get spread pretty thinly amongst fewer people. Do you think it's becoming quite tiring for some people, and that's also a risk because people might see it as too much to take on if we can't get more people into those roles and more people onto the boards of various clubs?
Yeah, seen it very, very often. The thing is, if you go and work in a club and you show willing, there'll be another job comes up. Oh, who are we going to get? Well, Peter can do that. He'll take that one on.
Yeah.
And it comes that way. And because people expect you to do it, more comes your way. And eventually you'll get a straw that breaks a camel's back. And people say, I just can't do this anymore. Thank you for the time I've had you. I'm off.
Yeah. I thought that was quite interesting. You mentioned about you tend to approach people who are already within the game rather than people coming directly to you. Is it just because it's very rare that people ever come directly and say, I want to be involved, I want to come on the committee, I want to help out with the whole league, rather than as you quite as what you're doing at the moment? Is it quite rare that someone ever approaches you? Because I said Adam had that as one of his questions that came in as what can I do to get involved in it? Is it quite rare to have that?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I mean, we do get people write to us occasionally saying, "Is there a role I could fulfil on the league?" But we have paid secretary and paid fixtures secretary, and the other roles are voluntary, although they do get monies as a donation, if you like, honorarium. But apart from the club reps, the other roles are there and they're currently filled. Now, we do look to take on more people. Unfortunately, we've lost 2 very, very valued members of our committee over the Christmas period. And it makes you wonder whether football is worth it when you lose friends like that. But at the moment, those roles will be picked up by other people. But we will be looking to recruit a secretary at the end of in June 2022, because the current secretary is intimating he's retiring. And we're always happy to hear from good people. But what we need for the league to be successful is some indication that you understand how Eastern Counties League football operates. And you can only really do that by working with the club and showing what you can do within that club.
Because I suppose there is always that fear that someone goes, "Oh yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to get involved," and then they actually get involved and they realise that they've probably bitten off a bit more than they could chew, and then hand the notice in after 3 months, and you kind of right back to square one again. I suppose that is always
the value of experience, though, isn't it, James? With a lot of things, the value of experience sometimes can outweigh other talents. It's like you can have a degree, but if you've never actually worked the job to understand how it goes, you're not necessarily the suitable candidate. It's a tough one.
Yeah, definitely.
Michael, in the present day, we are looking at a point where perhaps we do need somebody who's technically competent to do more with the Twitter and the interweb and that kind of thing. But at the moment, it's not very high up on the agenda.
Right. No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Shem, I've offered many years ago with the SIL, but I never heard anything back. Maverick put on here, we've advertised, but we just never get any applicants for it. Dean has put, I think there is a lot of people who would love to, but they've never known how to go about approaching it. And Michael's put, I think it's fair to say that most of the club's jobs are done by volunteers, and I guess there is only so much time that people are prepared to offer. Which again comes back to what you said about, people going in expecting to be able to do one thing on the club and then being asked to do another thing, then another thing, then another thing. And so all of a sudden your whole week's gone. You haven't even had a chance to breathe yourself.
Yeah, but you've got to be that kind of a person. I mean, I'm a volunteer. I get absolutely nothing for doing the job as chairman. And to me, it's just an honour. I'm proud to be able to do that. But these days, there seems to be that very few people are willing to do so much for not much in a financial reward, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you what. Shall we talk about the past year and what's been going on, Adam? Because it's been a very, very tough year for a lot of people in the sport, and obviously in terms of the players, the coaches, the managers, the referees, etc. From a league's perspective, I'd love to get your kind of thoughts on how this year has been for you. From a personal perspective, from a business perspective, how difficult has it been? What challenges have you kind of had? How do you reflect on the past 12 months?
12 months. Yeah, you're right. It has been difficult. Income is one problem for the league as well as clubs, but we have to bear in mind club situations as well. We've waived some opportunities to charge clubs for registrations, and we're going to be doing that going forward to help clubs with their finances. The league's finances will suffer over the same period this year and next year as well, because again, we're looking to try and help clubs. We've pretty much been caught in the middle because we're in the football pyramid. We have to adhere to what the FA tell us to do, and yet clubs obviously want to play football, players want to play football, and it's difficult sometimes for the three to align themselves, shall we say. You play in the football pyramid, you play in accordance with the rules of the FA. We got on well with the FA. I can pick up the phone and talk to the chairman of the leagues committee, the league's manager, people like that, and get a sensible answer. But it is and has been difficult because we want to try and keep everybody happy, and you just can't.
Yeah.
No.
What's the direct impact upon the league of less financial income? What does that really mean for the league and their future operations?
Well, as I said earlier, we have a paid secretary and a paid fixture secretary. They're contracts of employment. They are employees of the league. Without that income, you have to ask whether those people would be prepared to do the job for less money.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate. We have a great sponsor in THURLOW NUNN. And I'll get the plug in. If anybody's looking for a new Vauxhall, that's the way to do it. We can get that link. It's on the website. We can get you that link. They've been
Brilliant.
really good to us. And what we've done, we get the generous sponsorship money, and we built up a cushion in the league's finances. So that if we lost a sponsor, which is always a possibility, we could run for 2 years without that sponsorship money.
Okay.
This year, because of the extra outlay we've had and because of the monies that we're not been collecting from clubs, we're going to be eating into one of those years. So our fat, if you like, in the league finances has been sliced by 40%.
See, that's massively interesting, because that you're then starting to get to the real bones of the impact that this is having, and there comes a point where you can't slice anymore. If we go on to next season, heaven forbid, we end up like having to stop playing and cutting things short again. There comes a point where these decisions have become very, very difficult to make, no matter how morally correct they may seem, I believe. And is that something that worries you going forward? If we do have, we can't forecast what the next year is going to bring based on what's happened in the previous year. Does that worry you going forward?
It is a concern. Yeah, of course it is. But we can only look at where we're at now and
of course
try and work within that. And we will look to try and get as many games to the start of next season as we can.
Yeah.
Try and get on top of the fixtures, so that if we do get a mid-season break again, perhaps we're going to have more opportunity to finish it afterwards. So we won't run the League Cup competitions. They will be put on hold. And if we find come the new year that we do have the capacity to put those games in, then we'll run them.
Excellent.
That's interesting.
Yeah, really interesting.
That is interesting. I mean, it's difficult because I suppose from your perspective, despite what many people may think about what control you have, I suppose with a lot of decisions that are being made, most of this kind of stuff is out of your control, isn't it? In terms of when you're, obviously when you're allowed to play, when you're not allowed to play, when you can come back, how does your league restructuring look? I mean, for from people who kind of just jump in and go, the leagues need to be doing more on this kind of stuff, and I've been guilty of it as well on quite a few occasions on this show. What level of power does the league have, rather, to be able to make decisions in? I'm trying to think of the right way to put this in regards to when you're allowed to say, for example, when you're allowed to start your seasons, when are you allowed to drag over fixtures from previous seasons, etc.? Like some of the suggestions have been made. What power do you have to be able to make those kind of decisions?
Well, we have to work within the rules, standardised rules.
Yep.
And that's a big problem because they are fairly prescriptive about what you can and can't do, when you can start the season, when the season has to finish. And you can only change those rules with the agreement of the FA, and that then has to apply to everybody as well. So we are a bit hamstrung, I guess, is the answer in many respects, with the flexibility that perhaps we think we should have at some times. I mean, we still have to hold an annual general meeting. However, AGMs historically, you determined your own constitution, you determined your own rule changes, and the clubs voted on it. Now, the FA tell us what our constitution is going to be. The rule changes are all notified by the FA, and there's no opportunity to do otherwise, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I suppose it can make it frustrating at times when you can see something that could be changed and it could be really for the benefit of the league, but the actual process would mean that it's not a viable thing to try and ask for, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a reasonably good example. It's not picking on any one club, but we have, as you know, a number of reserve teams playing in our Step 6 divisions.
Yeah.
And in the past, we've had concern from a number of clubs because those reserve sides would suddenly turn out full of first teamers for a midweek game, for example.
We've had that stressed to us on here as well.
Yeah, a number of times.
We had what we like to think was a gentleman's agreement, whereby those clubs running reserve sides wouldn't do that. But unfortunately, there were a couple of clubs that drove coaching horses all the way through that. And now clubs can do pretty much what they want. Now, we did submit a proposed rule amendment to the FA for that, without success. So
right.
it is a concern to me and to the committee because to me it's against the spirit.
Yeah, 100%.
We have no rule, no stick to deal with that.
No.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's tough.
I want to get a couple of people's.
See, I know that's something you're very strongly about, Stephen, as well.
Yeah.
I just want to get a couple of people's questions that have come up on here, if that's all right with yourself, Peter. Shane Cauldron has put, based on the past 2 seasons, will the league consider playing more midweek games?
That's an interesting point.
Well, I think the answer is yes. As I said previously, we're going to try and get as many games in early as we can. Right. So that would probably mean we'll be playing more midweek games, certainly at the start of the season. But the difficulty with that is if you pile them all in and there is no issues, you come around to early March and you find nobody's got any games to play for 2 months. So there's a fine line to tread on that one. But the answer to Shane's question is yeah, we will be trying to get fixtures in as quickly and as many as we can.
I guess getting the league finished is going to be priority either way. And I know one of the things that Shane stressed last week is that pitches tend to be very, very poor throughout the back end of December, January time. And I suppose trying to do that could offset some of those issues and worries that happen later on. But also, I suppose it could give that experiment of pushing the League Cup over till post-Christmas when you can review things a lot more scope, because you're going to know roughly how many game weeks need to be filled up and what you've got available. So do you think that could offset that argument a bit coming into next year?
Well, we're always mindful of the weather. If you look at what January and February this year, there was an awful lot of games being called off, even if the FA had allowed us to play them. So there is something to be said for holding back the League Cup competitions. But whether there's another one you can feed into the mix, I guess.
Yeah. I've had Shems then follow that kind of question up on what we've been talking about. He said, has a winter break ever been considered? Again, I don't know how much of that kind of thing is in your power. I mean, is that even something that you're allowed to do?
We can arrange our fixtures as we see fit. If Shem can tell us when the bad weather's coming, then we'll consider it.
I suppose, like, that's the tough thing. If you said we're not going to play from the second week of December to the second week of January, James would get in a huff because he couldn't go and watch a team on Boxing Day for a start. Let's go back 15 episodes to have a laugh about that. And then, like, the other point of it would be you'd come back and the next week you'd be mid-January and it might be tipping it down with rain and the mid-season break may have been for nothing. So you'd have to experiment with it for a year, I guess, and be open to the experiment to see if it really actually saved you anything.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see it's going to happen. I mean, it's a nice idea. It's a nice idea, but I can't see it's going to happen because the weather is just unpredictable.
Those two comments there from Steve, and the one that followed up by Dean, is just absolutely hilarious. If we finish,
I disagree with them as well, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like finishing early being a good outcome, obviously for pitches and everything else. But then, literally, if we can finish at all.
Shem has said around the 5th of December, there's a slight chance of snow. So there you go. There's your preparation already in.
So stick that in the diary.
Simon has put on here, good show. How do you expect the pyramid restructuring to affect the Thurlow NUNN?
Okay.
From Simon.
Have we covered the potential restructure on previous shows so people know what you're talking about?
Kind of. It's not been covered in a massive amount of detail because the finer details of it we're not privy to as much of it. Obviously, I would have thought someone like yourself would know more than myself and Adam.
Having been, we're kind of at a situation where we don't know if it's certainly going to happen this year, although it's looking more and more like it will. And the fact that in our league, the way it was set up, you'd potentially have 2 people going up, but the second one would be decided on highest points per game. I think it was on a national basis, and the majority of those go up. It seemed to be, it's starting to become a bit unclear as to how this will be restructured going forward at step 5. Step 6 is I don't understand due to there's so many clubs that can go up. It was 4 last year, wasn't it? So it's fair to say there's some lack of clarity.
Okay, so please explain it to us, Peter.
A very, very quick overview then. At the present moment, there is one National League. Step 2 is the 2 National League North and South. And then you've got step 3 and step 4. At the moment, there are 4 leagues at step 3 and 7 at step 4. There are 14 leagues at step 5 and 20 leagues at step 6. So the pyramid is a very wonky sort of shape. And the idea is that there's be changed down to be 1, 2 at 2, 4 at 3, 8 at 4, 16 at 5, and 16 at 6. So basically, every step 5 league will have a step 6 league with it. The upshot of that is there's going to be an extra league at step 4, which will pull clubs up from step 5 leagues, and again, there's going to be extra leagues at step 5, which will pull a league and clubs up from step 6. So, in answer to your question, there's going to be a lot of scope to pull more clubs in at step 6 and promote more clubs to step 5 to fill the gaps left for those who are promoted to step 4.
Right.
The mechanism, I would say, is up in the air at the moment because the FA are currently reviewing the restructure and how they can do it, bearing in mind we've had 2 disrupted seasons. Right. So we're waiting to see what they will be able to do, what they think they can do to get the restructure to go ahead. Going back to your original question, what does it mean for us? Well, because there's going to be a shortage of clubs at step 6 and potentially fewer clubs at step 5 because of the move upwards, I would expect our boundaries to expand. We can't go into the Wash, we can't go into the North Sea, and we can't go into Essex. So the boundary of the Eastern Counties League, I would suggest, will spread west. To get the number of clubs in to make up the leagues as stated by the FA, which would be 18 to 20 clubs a division.
Right.
That's an interesting, interesting developments that could have. I suppose, like the leagues have been restructured in the past. How excited are you for this restructure and what it plans to mean in terms of gaining some uniform shape and something that should have a lot of longevity to it?
I think it's the ideal situation. I mean, it makes perfect sense the way they're trying to organise it. The difficulty from my point of view at the present time is the Eastern Counties League has always held the philosophy that promotion and relegation should be won on the pitch. You look through our league tables, we don't take points off of clubs for demeanours. It's always a replay if we can possibly do it, so that the decision is played out on the pitch. And at the present moment, I don't think they've got enough information to say these clubs merit promotion. So again, we're there to work with the FA, and if they say this is what we're going to do, chaps, then we will do our best to work within it. But it's slightly anathema to me because there will be clubs going up who maybe haven't earned it.
Yeah, I mean, Shane's put on here, restructuring during the null and void season bemuses me. I can't believe that we can't wait a season. Maverick has asked the point of how will you feel step 6 as well. I mean,
ground grading is quite tough as well, isn't it? Into step 6 from step 7. I know, James, you've spoken to me about it a lot because you've watched a lot of stuff at step 7. Yeah, and it could be tough for those teams to have the backing to do it.
Yeah. Right. Well, let me pick up on those. I agree with Shane. I don't think they should be doing it, and that is the view that we as a league put to the FA. That was our view, that they shouldn't do the restructure.
I was just about to ask you that. I was just about to ask whether or not you are actually asked for feedback on changes. So that's good. That's good to actually know that they do consult you about what you personally think. So that's good.
Yeah. So we've done that. And ground grading, there were quite a few clubs actually who applied for promotion to step 6 this year.
Yes, I saw. Yeah.
Coming from Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, Hertfordshire, and Cambridgeshire. So we're hopeful, but the ground grading, as you say, is tough. I mean, I still hold the role as ground grading officer for the Eastern Counties League.
Oh, right. Okay. You're doing both roles.
Yeah. Well, that's what I started off at, and I actually enjoy it. And it works well because we're required to go and visit grounds every 3 years to make sure the standards are met, the housekeeping hasn't dropped, and what have you. So it gives me the opportunity to go around to the clubs, meet the people, chat to them, find out what their issues are, and try and help where necessary. Yeah. It also means that when clubs are seeking promotion, I can go and see them, help them with their plans for the ground, and help perhaps guide them to promote and come and join us, which is, as I said, very right at the beginning, what we want to do, help clubs with their ambitions.
Yeah. You kind of talked about it there in a little bit of detail, the clubs that have applied to go up into step 6. There wasn't a massive amount of clubs on that list from Suffolk. It did the clubs that I mainly saw were Norfolk and a sprinkle of handful of clubs from Essex that wanted to go up to the next level. Why do you think that is the case? Just purely from somebody who's involved within the leagues, why do you think Suffolk is not as keen as some of the clubs in Norfolk to make that step up to those divisions? Do you think there's a particular reason behind it?
I think facilities is the key reason on that.
Right.
I think there are clubs out there that have the capability of seeking promotion, and I have been talking with one, which I'm not going to name. But no, they've. I've been up there and I've looked at the ground and I've offered some ideas, and they came back and asked me again this season. So there are clubs out there with ambition, but again, there are other clubs who might have the opportunity or the facilities to go up, but maybe don't have the committee level people to do it. It's the infrastructure in the club that's quite important as well. Unless you have a lot of money.
I was going to say, it's almost like a perfect storm of disappointment in a way. It's like that time is coming where perhaps we can pull some more clubs through. That's the one thing that you like to see done, is that, teams given that chance to progress through the leagues. And maybe that's now happening at a time when people have less money than they may have had in as long as we can remember, due to the fact that they haven't really had people in the grounds regularly now for getting on 2 seasons. And that I don't know, if we could sort of go to a parallel universe where COVID isn't a thing, it does make you wonder, with this initiative, would that be a different story? Would you see people investing in those changes that are needed? Are we living in a practical world where this restructure even fits at the moment?
Difficult question, that one. Does the restructure fit? Well, that's something the FA will determine, I'm afraid. I think not, but there you go. Yeah. If there hadn't been any COVID, do I think clubs would have been in a better position to seek promotion? I think probably not. I think there's the Suffolk area. It appears to be a shortage of ambition, but I suspect there's a lot more behind it than that. And I wouldn't want to clubs to feel that I'm sort of doing them down, if you like. But I think there are clubs out there who could do it, but for one reason or another, don't see themselves in the right position at the moment.
Yeah, no.
That's fair.
Shane's put a couple of comments up on here, and I want to just bring them up on the screen here. He's just put the financial pressure is more prevalent now than ever before. He's put league boundaries increasing could put financial pressure on clubs with extended travel costs. What do you comment?
Two good points. Two good points that obviously he's linked the two together, but obviously with finances being squashed, it makes things hard.
Yes. Sorry, I was just watching the other comment that came up there from Shane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we accept that. We accept that. As the footprint increases, so does the cost of playing at that level. I think the Step 5 league, the Premier Division, will be okay, but it's the Step 6 leagues that will have greater travelling distances.
Yeah.
I did say also, seeing that lack of ambition, I said it could be perceived as that, but I'm sure there's a lot more behind it. And yes, money will be one of those big points. So I do accept that.
Yeah. I'm going to bring Stephen's comment up on the screen here. He's put, if Peter thinks that teams should justify their level on the pitch, why not over promote this year and just increase relegation slots the year after? Then they prove it on the pitch. What do you think of that?
The short answer to that one is the FA won't allow us to do that.
Right.
We have to work within the framework that the FA give us. And yeah, Stephen's right. If the FA decide that the restructure can go ahead and they say we are going to take 5 of your first division clubs and put them in the Premier Division to fill the numbers up, they will sink or swim. It's as simple as that. If they are good enough, they will stay there. If they're not, or if they don't get the ground grading done in time, and I know that's not a problem with Ipswich Wanderers, then they will go back down again.
Right. Can clubs turn that down if they wanted to? Say, for example, I can't imagine anybody would, but if someone said, actually, do you know what? We don't want to go up this season. We're not quite ready for that. Could somebody turn around and go, actually, we want to stay at the level that we're at? You kind of shake your head at them, but some people will do that. There will be some.
No, sorry, I've just seen someone's username in the chat, and I'm not sure what kind of profile they use their YouTube account for. Normally, it's just got me. Sorry, I was listening.
Sorry, because they go up here.
Oh, sorry, what was the question again?
If a club turned around to you and said, we don't want to go up a division, could they turn that down for whatever reason?
Right. What was said when the restructure was first mooted was that clubs shall be promoted. Those that choose not to be promoted will be relegated. So that's the answer to your question. If you say no, then you drop down a level potentially. At least, let me rephrase that. That was the original statement.
Right.
But again, we're in a very strange situation at the moment.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Has that been the standardised rule for a while though?
No, this is the way they were going to deal with the restructure.
Oh, okay, fine. I just wondered if someone got promoted out of a level and they said, no, I don't want to be promoted on a normal season when not being restructured, would you get demoted at that point? So say you're in step 6 and you said you finished second and you said, no, I don't want to go up to step 5. I think it'll cost us too much money.
I can't answer your question because I honestly can't remember. The last club that won the Premier Division, as far as I can remember, and didn't take promotion was Hadley United a few years back. Since then, I think every club that's won it's taken promotion.
I'm sure, like when I did a rule book read, there was some strange rule in there about it that I was shocked about. Not sure. Yeah. I'll have a look. I'm interested.
Okay, can I just go back? Because I'm seeing this comment about ambition again. I'm not talking about ambition in players and managers and coaches. I'm talking about ambition within the management of those clubs, the club committee.
Yeah.
I know all players would love to get promoted. I understand that. Everybody wants to play at the highest level they can.
That's it. Yeah, because again, we are seeing that quite a lot in the chat. So I'm glad you kind of reiterated that point, because Dean's has nothing to do with ambition. Most clubs in Step 7 would love to play at that level and would do well within it. It comes down facilities, costs, finances. But, you know, ambition can mean a broad range of things for different people in different clubs, can't it? On here as well. Ben's put on here, the FA have the final say. I think if the clubs had the finances to go up, and they would go up. Some teams from the SIL, it's hard to probably argue on that one. Lee's put on here, also, would those clubs have to start paying players to compete at that level? Well, I mean, they're not.
You're not bound to pay them, but you're not going to get the same players if you don't. Do you think money has heavily affected the game in recent years in Step 5 and Step 6 to positive or negative effect?
It's certainly affected the game. Yeah, I mean, we know there are clubs in our league that don't pay players. They just can't do it, and players play for that club. But I also know, let me put it this way. I also been informed that clubs pay money in the SIL to players, and have done for some time. So the argument that I would say is it's got to be down to the individual player. But why would a player go and play in the SIL and get 15 quid in his pocket and be home at 5 o'clock, or go and play in the Eastern Counties League Step 6, get 15 quid in his pocket and be home at 8 o'clock? You know, that's quite a big difference, and it depends on the mindset of the individual.
Yeah.
I think we've seen, haven't we, mindsets have changed somewhat recently, and the playing with your mates, being closer to your friends, everything else is being a bigger draw lately in the leagues.
Home for family time, and
it's being far more important to people than saying I play Step 6 football.
Yeah. No, definitely on there. I'll tell you what, let me get some questions that we had sent in from Twitter on there.
So I've got loads coming in.
Do you want to read a couple of yours out, Adam, whilst I'm getting some of mine?
Talk about spring it on me. Good grief. So I've already gone through one of mine. So okay, so fine. So Stephen sent me in another question earlier when we were speaking. They said, do you think that at times this season clubs have used COVID to get out of playing when it didn't suit them for player availability reasons, or not wanting to play teams that are perceived as being better? And do you agree that the rules around fulfilment of fixtures need tightening up for the new season when it starts again, because those issues are still going to exist? He's got an example on there as well, but I don't think we'd necessarily need to go into it. But they were sort of felt to be stitched up late on a Friday night, 8:30 p.m. before a game.
I think everyone knows who it is.
Yeah, like, do you feel that there's something that can be put in there to model the pro game and how they've gone about things as we start up again to ensure we get games played? Because some teams did not play for weeks.
Let's just take that back a bit.
Yeah.
When this all kicked off, the Eastern Counties League took a policy decision that we were not going to put any single player, supporter, or club management official or match official at risk with COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as a management committee, we also have to take the integrity of our clubs at face value.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if a club comes to us and says, we have these concerns, we will always, and did always, err on the side of caution. And yes, I know it caused upset. And I know from correspondence that I've seen and I've had with Stephen as well, the situation that affected him. But as I say, we have to respect the integrity of the clubs, and we will not put anybody at risk. And it was unfortunate that it led to several circumstances and situations, but that's just the way it had to be.
Yeah, I think like it's almost like the phrases like the COVID call-off became like bandied about and stuff like that. And like you say, you can do nothing but take the integrity at face value, I guess. But like that's the whole thing that's going to underpin any decision that you make.
Yeah.
Because if you set a framework up, you can do little more to enforce it other than trust, I guess. And I suppose that's what you're saying, is that's the underlying flaw to the whole of it, is that if people break the trust of it.
And he's followed that exact comment up by saying in the chat tonight. So, do you feel let down by those clubs? I suppose.
Well,
it's a tricky one to answer, isn't it?
We've not dug into it because we can't categorically say you did this to avoid playing that game. So it's not a question of feeling let down. We've taken what they've said at face value. We haven't then gone back and spent hours trying to work out whether they have an issue or not.
You're not essentially responsible for track and traces, I guess. When you stand on the matter, it's just doing as much as you can for what gets provided.
In a way, and I understand Stephen's point of view, but I thought we'd actually put this one to rest at the time, but obviously it still rankles.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair enough on there. I had, and I hope Dean doesn't actually. Well, I've just told you. Good. I've just told you.
Well done. Get you in the secret services.
I have not hidden that one well. Apologies, Dean. He's put a question for Peter on the show on Monday. How does the Thurlow NUNN currently support or help those suffering with mental health issues, not just players, but from top to bottom, including himself? The reason I'm asking is, as far as I can see, and I may be wrong, it seems to be the FA. It gets diverted back to the FA, and it's a generalised format. And then if you want to help, then you have to go on a course and all this kind of stuff like that. So how does the Thurlow NUNN currently support or help those suffering with mental health? Is there anything in place?
Yeah, there is. We've covered that. We had our referees appointments officer, referees administration officer, Tony Trevors, did quite a big paper on it. I can't state categorically, but I believe there is information up on the website. And I think it was also circulated to clubs.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's good. I like that. Hopefully that answers your question, Dean. If you've got anything you want to follow up on that, Dean, just put it in the comments as you normally do, mate. We had Aaron Beale on Twitter ask. He's put quite a lot actually on these, but I'm so lucky to have been coached by him during my time at Cable and Westerfield. He had no real affiliation to either club, but he put on sessions for whatever goalkeepers wanted. Sessions, they weren't fun at times, with an exhausted emoji, and many goalkeepers didn't return for the week too, but I loved it. So my questions to him are, who is his favourite pro goalkeeper of all time? And who's the best non-league goalkeeper that he's seen?
I suppose I don't have a favourite pro goalkeeper. They all have their pros and cons. There's not anyone that I would look at over the past 60 years and say that's my favourite. I just looked and learned as best I could from all of them. Who is my favourite non-league goalkeeper, or the best non-league goalkeeper? Well, me, obviously.
I love that.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Adam, have you got any other questions? Because I know we're going to talk about social media in just a moment. But do you have any other questions you want to kind of go through?
No, I'm good at the minute. I had the meaty one earlier about joining in, and I had that one from Stephen.
Right.
So yeah, otherwise it's just the replies that we got. So yeah, no,
okay,
I'm good.
So the main comment that we got, and I want to just talk to you about this one, Peter, that when we posted up that we've got you coming on the show, we tagged the Thurlow NUNN in it to let everybody know who we've got on the show. Really excited, etc., etc. We had a number of people commenting back, and this may be something that you're able to answer or not. We had a lot of people saying, why am I currently blocked by the Thurlow NUNN's Twitter page? Now, that's a very difficult question, I know, for somebody like yourself to answer, but social media is a massive part of football nowadays. It's a massive part of non-league football, and it's grown so much recently. How does the league feel about social media, and how much importance do you place on it at the moment?
Right. As far as I'm aware, nobody's blocked intentionally. So if people
Right.
are saying that they're blocked, if they can drop me an email, I will get it unblocked. We've had a couple of instances where I've had emails from people saying, I'm blocked, what have I done? And there was no intention to block them at all. It just seems to be some kind of a fault we have in the system. So drop me an email and I'll get you unblocked. There's no hidden agenda here at all.
Right.
I think for a while on the accounts, I know I was for a while for no reason. There has been that issue. It's just, I think it's just one of those things. Either that, or you did single me out and decide that you didn't want to hear from me because I moaned so much. But yeah, it's. I think you've probably just got a gremlin in there, and I think one of the things I was kind of keen to get out is the fact that I'm sure that none of it has been done maliciously. It's just the fact that there's an issue somewhere technologically. But going forward, if the Twitter account for the league grows, I think it's something that I could fully get behind in terms of making the league itself go out to people, because I think people are always checking in for scores and little bits of news and stuff for clubs, and clubs try their best to promote things, and to have a central place for a league to distribute all of that would be time consuming, but would also be to benefit to your everyday fans and people involved. I reckon they're asking for Patreon sponsorship.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I know we're not, as I said to you, I think earlier on, when it comes to this technology, we're not up as speedily as we should be, and that will be something we'll look at.
Great.
Okay.
That's good.
Because I just want to follow up on that a little bit, because obviously social media is such a massive part of what we do. It's absolutely crucial. We can't function without that side of what we do. From a league's perspective, how important is it that you feel that is addressed moving forward? Is it something that the league are quite keen to get something in place for, or do you kind of see where I'm kind of going with that?
Yeah, I think the problem we have is we don't have anybody at the moment who's capable of doing that on the basis that you're talking about.
Right.
And the second part of that is, if we did have somebody who's capable, we'd then need others who are feeding everything in and to that person, and it just becomes another role that perhaps we're back to stage one again, where we're piling stuff on people who are willing. So it's a little bit chicken and eggish, but I think it is certainly something we will be looking at attacking going forward.
Yeah. Again, is that the kind of thing that, for anybody who wants to get involved?
I was going to say, that sounds like the most ideal opportunity for someone that wants to be involved in digital media, because the stuff is out there from clubs, and there'd be the appetite for it. It's just getting the right recruit, I think.
Yeah. Or again, would that come back to what you said earlier? You'd potentially look at somebody who's doing stuff internally at non-league level, very similar to the other the way you fill other roles. I don't know.
Well, at the risk of lifting my head above the parapet, if there are people out there who think that they would be able to do that job and would be interested in doing that job for the league, I'll be very happy to hear from them. They can email me in the first instance. But as I say, I sit at the head of a table, and it's something I'd have to take back with the committee to discuss.
Brilliant. No, that's absolutely. I love that.
Michael, get out of the chat. I am not. Yeah, that's the problem.
Go on, Adam, volunteer yourself here, right now.
It has got my name all over it. I can't take any more on.
He does 90% of this show, Mike. We can't do any more. I just turn up and spout shit.
You're meant to be the pretty face that wears the jumpers.
Oh God, pretty face! Jesus Christ, we really are in trouble. Stevens, you probably saw this comment coming up on the side there, Peter. But Stevens, I genuinely think the league could improve their PR. There are decent people doing a very tough job. It would be good to have a reset in the relationships with some clubs and more regular communication moving forward. Now that side of things doesn't necessarily have to be social media aimed, does it? That communication side of it. Is that is that something that potentially the league is looking to
well,
do more of?
historically, the league have held regional club meetings in March each year, when we've pulled all the clubs in a particular region to a central point, and we've basically given our information to the clubs and given them an open forum to come back at us with things that are of concern to them. And again, it's all a part of being open and accountable. So the situation is somewhat different at the moment, obviously because of COVID, but to actually sit down with people, see the whites of their eyes and discuss their concerns is well worthwhile, and we'll be looking at going back to that next March.
Right. No, that's fair enough. I just want to follow up on Dean's question earlier on that he emailed in to me. He's put on here, I feel it's easy just to send emails with attachments on seeking help, which we can find on Google. I'm talking about, is there a real person to talk to or a team dedicated to the support of mental health? As it's all aimed at coaches and managers to train to help others in their squad, which you have to pay. I can't validate that or verify that. Is that something you'd have to look into in terms of finding out from what link is available?
As far as the Eastern Counties League is concerned, the short answer to that one is no, unfortunately. But all clubs are affiliated to their county FAs, and this falls very heavily under their remit too. So I would say if the league can't assist, then the county FA should be there and available to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's just knowing the clarity of the lines of engagement for each issue, isn't it? I think,
and just knowing where to go to, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a growing issue, and it's more and more at the forefront of what people talk about. And I wouldn't be surprised if years down the line clubs have their own mental health people at them, someone that's mental health first aid trained, that works on a voluntary basis just to check in on people and to have a chat, whatever. But I think as long as the clarity of the lines of communication for what's available right now is there, and we recognise there is something, then we're in the right direction. In my mind, mental health support can always be improved. I'll never lay down on that one, but as long as there's something.
Definitely. Simon asked a question earlier on. You may or may not want to answer this one, Peter. Is there a particular Thurlow NUNN club that you admire for the way that they are run / values that they have?
I think there's a number of clubs in the Thurlow NUNN League who do an absolutely brilliant job. And to be honest, there'd be a number of them that I'd be very happy to go and be a part of. But as you probably rightly guessed, no, I'm not going to name names. Clubs are different. Clubs have different numbers of personnel helping out. You can look at a one-man band who knocks his socks off to make it work for his people every week, has the right values, and goes about it the right way. Or you could look at a club where they're falling over themselves to be involved because everybody loves their club. So each club has its own merits and its down points, and we just have to treat them all fairly, and those that need help we'll try and guide.
Yeah.
Is your job difficult at times when maybe a club hasn't got what you would view as being the best values or being run as well as you could see it? Again, there's no need to name any names, but I'm sure in all of the time that you've been within football, you've seen it plenty of times where the values aren't great and things aren't being run in the right way. Does that get quite tricky to manage from your role?
No, not tricky. We just have to try and work with clubs. You probably worked out I'm reasonably open and I'm honest, and I'll go and sit and talk to people if the need is there. But you've been kind enough to invite me on, but it's not me that bears the brunt of the day-to-day communication. That goes down to the league secretary. So whilst all clubs know, and many of them do phone me, and I'm always happy to help and try and help. Obviously, first point of call would normally be the league secretary, as it's his paid role.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Dan Snell put early up in the chat saying it would be good to see league officers out and about at games, visiting different clubs more often. We only ever see the referee observers on my travel.
You never want to see one of them. You always notice him for a rubbish game.
Christ, Adam.
Whenever there's a referee observer there, it's just not a normal game.
Yeah,
True.
It's a fair point, but you have to bear in mind that many of our officers are involved with clubs. So on a Saturday when they're playing games, they'll be involved with their own club. I'm only one person. I can't get around every time, and I know Dan quite well. And if I saw him, I'd know I was at the wrong game. So everything's absolutely fine.
Shem's put on here. Tonight has really helped and fully appreciate Pierre giving up his time. Many questions have been answered, and maybe something like this throughout the season will improve that communication for all. I mean, that again, we kind of reiterate what we said before we even started the show. This is why we've decided to reach out to yourself and to other leagues to come on, because we want to have that open communication with people. And I think from a lot of people's perspectives, it's when you're not in the know and when you're not informed and kept up to date with things, that's when things get a little bit frustrating, is when all you see, because I mean, again, social media, whilst it has a lot of good points, the negative side of it is that there are a lot of rumors and a lot of, I don't want to use Donald Trump's words, but fake news online.
Misinformation is the word you're looking for.
Loads of it.
If you don't ask the people who actually know, it's only going to keep perpetuating.
Yeah.
I've just sat back and watched some of the stuff that's been going on over the last year with this COVID-19, and some of the misinformation is quite astounding. But if you don't ask the people who know, you're not going to get an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true. I would put Ben's question up on here, but we've already kind of covered on that one. Stevens put maybe we should do a panel discussion every now and again, club, league, and FA. Is that? I don't know.
Does Stephen mean on here? Sort it out so it comes on here and it's a broader thing.
Oh,
so it would be possible to do to have.
I'd love
a
it.
league member and FA
It'd be
member.
Chaos. It'd be absolute chaos, but
it'd be an interesting way of continuing debate. But I think tonight has proven very readily that shorter 20-minute bursts of conversation at a more regular interval from early on would have served us far better than catching up on all of this now. Like you say, it's been extremely open in terms of giving things. And I've learned an awful lot very quickly tonight, I would say.
Yeah. Stephen's put on here. I mean, the offer's there. If people are up for it, that I'd be quite up for that, because
you wet yourself at the thought of more than one guest on the screen at a time.
No, I do not. No, I do not. I'd love it. Would that be something that that yourself or the league would consider doing?
We'd consider doing it if there was a perceived advantage in so doing. I mean, the risk is that you end up with almost a slanging match, I guess. If two sides can't see eye to eye, and whilst that might be entertaining viewing, I don't know that that's going to achieve a great deal. So I think it'd have to be thought through carefully.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
No, fair enough on that one. Yeah, I know you would be, Stephen. I absolutely know you would be. Ben, something Evan lacks.
He can phone me anytime anyway. He's got my number. He can phone me anytime anyway.
Ben, something Evans lacks is transparency. Peter has that on there. I suppose really I've got to want to just finish up on a question of, obviously you've been, as you quite already said at the beginning, in the role for 9 years now. How do you reflect on where the league is when you first started and how things are like at this current point? How do you think the scene in non-league football has looked over the past 9 years?
I think we've progressed. I think as a league, we've progressed. We've got better at communicating. We've got better relationship with the FA. We've now got a new Step 6 division in Essex, which we didn't have to begin with. The league is growing. People want to be part of it, especially the youth league. We regularly get 10 or 12 applications to join the youth league each season. We're doing well. People want to be part of it, and that's good.
Love it.
Super.
How long? One final question: how long do you want to keep doing this for? Are you still enjoying it?
Oh, I'm enjoying it, and I've not finished all I want to do yet. So I'll go around for another 3 years if I'm re-elected, and see where we sit at the end of that. But that'll be 12 years. Maybe it'll be time for somebody else to come in and take the role. Maybe I won't have finished yet. Time will tell.
Well, you'd definitely get my vote if my vote meant anything. You'd definitely get my vote on that. No, absolute pleasure having you on the show tonight, Peter. Really appreciate your time. And as everyone has quite rightly said in the chat, your honesty this evening has been superb. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming on.
That's been a pleasure. I would say any time, but if you waited 31 blooming sessions, then I reckon 62 should be just about right.
You'll be back on before then. I'll make sure of it.
Yeah, we'll get you on.
Absolutely buried me for that mistake, I tell you.
We'll get you on before the season starts. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
I'll start weekly emails to you now. I tell you, once you get me going, I don't shut up. So
yeah, I was going to say you might regret this one, Peter.
Life is full of regrets. Thanks a lot, guys. I've enjoyed it.
Dean's final comment: donate a Vauxhall to Matt the Steak Blake.
I couldn't get Vauxhall to give me a complimentary car as chairman, so I'm afraid Matt's going to have to find his own.
Brilliant. Again, Peter, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Really appreciate your time. It's been good chatting to you. Take care of yourself.
All right, all the best. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, mate. Cheers,
everyone. Adam, wow, that was brilliant. Absolutely love that. Very informative, very honest, very open.
Good fun as well.
Exactly what we want, though. This is exactly what we're after. And hopefully, this will be the springboard and encourage other people from other leagues to do something similar, because this is exactly what we want. We want to hear what the leagues have to say. We want their voices and opinions heard as well, because otherwise it can become very much a us versus them.
Yeah, and you don't want that. I want to be building bridges and communicating. I want it just to become a big network of people and ideas, not picking sides and getting annoyed at people.
Yeah.
Despite my opinions.
Yeah. Shall we kind of talk about the other side of it now? From an SIL perspective, do you think it's worth or I mean we're
you can to some extent. That, like, I'm happy to go. Like, at the moment, the SIL don't quite think it's appropriate. I think is the best way of putting it for them to do something. But I hope that we can.
We're open to we're open to discussions. We want to have that communication from them. We want to have very similar to what we had tonight. That is exactly what we're after from the league. And we're putting down the building blocks, the foundations to get that kind of things moving forward. So we hear you, because the reason why I want to talk about it is because every week we get messages about we want to hear better, we want to hear more from them. We want you to get them on. We want to have that dialogue. We want to be able to, put our questions forward. So I don't want to keep jumping around the issue, because we are trying. It's not like we just sit here and just do nothing for other week. We are trying. We've
spoken tonight on the fact that social media is full of the misinformation side of things and everything else. Right? This is not me like putting a stick into anybody that sends us stuff, because we really appreciate it and it keeps us going. But we risk ourselves every time we put one of those bits of news out.
Yeah,
we risk quite a lot, because if that turns out to not be true, or someone else comes back and says, where have you got that from? We've got to do something with it. All we want is an olive branch to have someone that we can have on to come and speak to us every couple of months and speak about the league and how things are going, and someone that can send us those little press releases or whatever. But at the moment, the juncture that we're stuck at is the information that we're allowed to see is on the website, and there's probably not really anyone involved that would be appropriate at the moment to come on the show. So I really hope that we can push things on. But at the same time, you know, it's important to note that that's the way they feel about it. It's not, there's nothing against them for it. It's just not right for them at the moment at all. So don't get me wrong in terms of the way it is, but I want people to be clear of the fact that we are trying, but for the SIL, it isn't the right move for them to do at the moment.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not, we're not saying it to dig people out, and we're not doing it to drop people in it. As I said, we just get it on a regular basis where people ask us about the SIL, because predominantly that is what the channel was for a considerable amount of time. So that is predominantly where the audience is at the moment. And I just don't want to. I just don't want to keep jumping around it. And you know, I want to be open with you guys, and you know, we're open to it. We're more than welcome. You know, more than happy to have people on in whatever format they want. I don't mind. That's absolutely fine. But you know, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully things can start making some progress in the upcoming weeks and months, etc. And we'll see. We'll see.
I think I have to recognise as well is that people there actually need to trust us and what we do, and have an understanding for what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So we're delivering as much publicity for the SIL as we possibly can at the moment. We're trying to cover it top to bottom as much as we can. All right, we hold our hands up about the leagues with letters on and Div 4, which I can't remember the order of at the moment. But, you know, we cover as much of it as is practical. Yeah. But it's going to have to carry on in that capacity for the meantime until we can... their reasoning does make sense to us because they were quite clear about it. I'll say that, but at the same time, it just means that we're going to carry on as we are for now.
Yeah. So that answers that question on there for you. I'll tell you what. Let's round up tonight's show with the Super Six. Adam, this week, before I bring up the weekly scores up on the board, kind of talk me through who's had a good week, and have we all had a good week?
Didn't we all do well? We had a very good week. Let's have a look at the main table for the actual overall, sponsored by K9.
Shall I bring up the weekly one yet, or do you want me to wait just a few seconds?
No, do the weekly one in a minute. Oh, actually, no, one explains the other, doesn't it? Okay, bring up the weekly one. I'm an absolute diff. Yeah, we need this one first. So Non-League Football Shop have given us another shirt to give away. Jamie Sandilands was the lucky owner of the last one. He's still entering for this month again, but not quite there at the moment. Ben Froud and Ben Durham in the famous Battle of the Bens, really going for it, matching each other up week on week. I'd suggest you stop copying each other's answers because you can't both win a shirt. So beyond that, we're seeing Matt Musgrove take part again every single week. He had a few weeks off, and he always does well, to be fair. But yeah, the scores are good, aren't they? I will say now, if I was to win it, I would give it to whoever came second. Either way, I just like participating, unlike yourself, James. But yeah, people are doing well.
Are you going to tell me again that I didn't enter this week?
You've only entered 2 times in the last 6 weeks.
That's shocking.
What I'm absolutely begging for your dad to overtake you. He's your dad's the poorest performer overall on this that we've actually got. But if he overtakes you, it's going to be absolute scenes. So yeah, there's a few people on here that genuinely are not in the top charts with month on month. So this is really good. You know, it's really good to have people that take part all the while, you know, there or thereabouts. So I think Ben Durham may have won something before, I think.
God,
sure he
possibly. Yeah,
has.
I think he did. So, yeah.
I think he won the copy of FM on the first monthly giveaway that we did. Alex, you did do yours. You're one of the first ones to do it. So yeah, good scores. 13 points leading it after 2 weeks is high.
Yeah,
Very high. So this could be an interesting month.
So here is the overall then. Who's been the biggest mover and shakers this week?
You've only got to look at the top 10 to realise that's in a completely different order to what it has been recently.
And we've now got 2 extra people into the ton-ups.
Yeah. So Jordan's been going well for weeks, but Ben's really pushed on as well. Those few big weeks that Jamie has seems to have absolutely propelled him. Then the middle has shuffled round a bit, more so than last week, because people scored big. Ellis didn't even enter this week, mate. Yeah, people scored big. So, and we're still getting between 50 and 60 enter every single week.
Which is brilliant.
So, yeah, these big scores are making a difference. So, yeah, there you go. Like Shem's gone up 5 places in 1 week. So, yeah, some of those big scores are really moving people along. But yeah, Steve is getting there, up to 45th now. Wasn't on the board for a long time. You need to watch your back, James. It's only 5 points between you. What's the most hilarious comeback of all time?
That's really bad. That's really bad.
Yeah. So, but well done to everyone that's been a big mover this week, because there have been some real gains on there.
Definitely. No worries. We really appreciate that. So here are the Super 6 for this week. And I'll put the link for this in the chat right now. So if you want to get your early predictions in, now is the opportunity to do so. It is going on to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch as well. So Norwich versus Blackburn, Portsmouth versus Ipswich, Cambridge versus Forest Green Rovers, Colchester versus Port Vale, Scunthorpe versus Southend, and Torquay versus Kings Lynn. So some big games coming up there. That's going to be a very tough one for Kings Lynn. But yeah, if you want to get
not really a glamour tie in there, is there? God dear me.
Peterborough Ipswich, if you look at it on paper, is probably a bit of a glamour tie.
Peterborough Portsmouth Ipswich. Ipswich are not glamorous at the moment. Nah. Well, I know they've just crept in the playoffs, but I'm still not convinced by them. I watched them Saturday, and it wasn't great. Cambridge are doing bits at the minute, aren't they? I can imagine they'll carry that on against Forest Green Rovers. So there's a win there for me. But
there you go. Dean saying all home wins.
Do you know what? Yeah, I think I'd quite quickly whip down that list. I think Ipswich. If I'm going to put a score out there, because we like doing that, I'll say Portsmouth 3, Ipswich 1.
Wow. Okay. I've just done my predictions, right, and I can't remember what I put. That is terrible.
Do you know what? I had my phone on silent. That's why it hasn't buzzed. But I want to see if you actually sent it through. You probably haven't.
Yeah. No, I have.
You tell me that every week, though.
No, I've definitely sent it. Follow the trawler. If I beat Drew, I will make a contribution to a charity of your choice, lads. Love that. Absolutely love that. Whatever. Sorry, Irv's put on here. Whatever happened to Vinny, I'm just glad to be above him.
Absolutely fell off the radar.
I'm so bad at this. There's Slim on here. Ipswich will win, says Irv. Michael Crowfoot, I've just done that, predicting all home wins. So yeah, if you want to get involved, as always, Super Sync Leagues is going to be been posted into chat. We'll post it on social medias throughout the week. So if you have missed out on tonight's show being it live, you can fill in your guesses out throughout the whole of the entire week. We're going to wrap things up for tonight, just short of the 2-hour mark, but it doesn't mean it's been any less of a brilliant show. Again, I just want to reiterate what we kind of said last week, and we talked about it in a little bit of details towards the end of the show. Just a massive thank you once again. We're 31 episodes into this now, and I'm immensely proud of what everyone continues to do and the way that clubs promote the show and everyone who's got involved and help us grow to the level that we're at now, that we're able to get Peter on, for example, who, you know, when we first started it, I don't think we kind of ever envisaged that we would get that caliber of guest on to be as honest and open.
I didn't want to, like, it feels a bit silly, but like straight to his face, like it's a bit hard to say, but I just never considered us good enough to start with to get that caliber of guest on. I didn't consider us to have the impact where that would do something, but it's good to know that we've got that reach, and what a fantastic line of communication he was tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely awesome.
And I know YouTubers say this a lot, and, you know, people who do these kind of shows, seriously, without you lot tuning in, without you lot leaving your comments, getting involved in the show, promoting it the way that you do, we wouldn't have half of what we do. So I just want to say a massive thank you. And when football does finally get back up and running, we've got some very, very big plans about what we want to do. I'm not going to say too much right now, but the match day experience is going to look different. The interviews that we do are going to look completely different. What we do as a channel is going to look completely different.
It's amazing what sacking you can do, isn't it? We can sack you, and all of those things can look different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, letting some of the reins go a little bit, some progress can actually happen. Yeah, this show's going to look different moving into next season when we've actually got football back up and running as well. We've got a lot of things that we want to do, and that we're getting in the foundations of them now, whilst there's a bit of a lull, and we kind of prepare for next season. As I said, we've got some big plans coming up, and I'm glad we've kept doing this, because, you know, we've then got that core foundation of people that have stuck with the show, the likes of Shem, Dean, Irv, you know,
pretty much anyone in the chat today.
Yeah, pretty much everyone who's still here, everyone who's still getting involved in it. You know, everyone who's listed. You know, as I said, moving forward, we've got a lot of things planned. So I just want to say a massive thank you. And I know, as I said, people do say that a lot, but we really do mean it. We really do mean it. Adam, anything you want to say before I round up tonight's show?
Bye.
Wow.
Great show. A polite thing to say.
Great show, guys. Dean, Roland 32. Thank you, gents. Peter was a breath of fresh air, so open and honest. Best show around. You guys have worked so hard for it. Full respect to you both. Appreciate that, mate.
I'll tell you what I could say, actually.
Go on.
For anyone that's on at the moment, if there is anyone you want on as a guest or want to come on as a guest yourself, we have got an opening for the next couple of weeks, just because of the way that I've been planning. Send me a DM and we'll sort it. We'll do something a bit different for the next couple of weeks, because we have had some heavy old focus on Thurlow NUNN for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. There you go.
So,
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave tonight with the last comment up on here from Shem. Ref cam with Irv. What a way to change change the direction of a channel. If you've enjoyed tonight's video, hit the thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Massive thank you to everyone who's continued to support the show, and we will be back the same time next week as we always are. Monday night, 8:30. We will see you all then, very, very soon. But until next time, as always, adios.